By the time the video hit 1 million views, Adaeze was already missing. Her last post was still trending across Lagos. Her phone was still ringing. Brand deals, collaboration requests, sponsorship offers pouring in from companies who had no idea what had just happened. Her DMs were overflowing. She was gone. And the only thing left in her luxury apartment in Lekki Phase 1 was a cracked ring light, still standing in front of a camera that had nothing left to record. How does a young woman go from nothing to 1 million views to completely gone? This is the story of how a young woman from Nsukka chased the soft life she saw online, chose greed over wisdom, and paid a price she never imagined. Adaeze Okonkwo grew up in Nsukka, a quiet university town in Enugu State, southeastern Nigeria. Her father, Mr. Chukwudi Okonkwo, spent his entire career as a secondary school teacher, not the kind who watches the clock, the kind who stays after class, marks paper under dim light, and genuinely believes that knowledge is the greatest gift you can give a child. Her mother, Mrs. Ufunanya Okonkwo, sold fabrics at Ogbete Market every single day, up before sunrise, arranging her stores with care, bargaining with suppliers, smiling at customers, even on the slow days, the hard days, the days when sales barely covered transport. They sacrificed so their daughter could have what they never had. It worked, but for a while. Adaeze was focused. She studied hard, she gained admission to the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. She graduated, she did everything her parents raised her to do. But then she moved to Lagos. And Lagos, as anyone who has lived here will tell you, has a way of making you feel like whatever you have is never quite enough. At 23, Adaeze arrived in the city with her degree, her ambition, and a small bag packed with her mother's prayer. She found one-room apartment in Yaba, sharing a bathroom with three other tenants, noisy, crowded, nothing like the quiet of home. She got a job as a front desk assistant at a tech startup in Victoria Island. The salary was small, the commute was long, the distance between her reality and her dreams felt wider every single day. But she told herself, this is how it starts, be patient. Then the scrolling began. Every night after long days and even long commutes, Adaeze would lie on her bed and open Instagram, and what the algorithm kept showing her over and over were girls her age who had grown up in similar circumstances and now living completely different lives. Lekki apartments with floor-to-ceiling windows, Dubai vacations, designers handbag, expensive restaurants, slow, beautiful, effortless lives all on display for the world to see and envy. And beneath every photo, the same captions: God did, favor, living my best life. Adaeze stared at her cracked Android phone screen in the dark and felt something stir inside that she had never felt before. When, she whispered to herself, when will it be my turn? That question was the beginning of everything that followed. Adaeze made a decision. If those girls could do it, so could she. She saved up carefully and bought a second-hand iPhone and a ring light. Then she started posting outfits put together thoughtfully on a tight budget, skincare routines filmed in her shared bathroom at odd hours when the other tenants were asleep, motivational captions about the journey, some of which she barely believed herself in the moment she typed them, but she kept going consistently every single day. A colleague at work, a quiet and grounded woman named Miriam Bello, noticed the change one afternoon as they ate lunch together in Victoria Island. "Adaeze," Miriam said carefully, choosing her word, "social media is not for real life. Oh. Those people you are watching, you don't know their full story. You don't know what is behind those pictures." Adaeze laughed and waved her off. "You are just scared to try something new, Miriam. Not everyone wants to stay small." Miriam didn't argue. She nodded slowly, but she remembered that conversation and she would come back to it later. Weeks turned into months, and slowly something real began to shift. Her following started climbing. 5,000 followers, 12,000, then 50. Brand began reaching out. Free wigs arrived at her door. discount code, small paid promotion, our DMs transformed completely. Less personal messages, more businesses enquiries from companies who wanted access to our growing audience. For the first time since arriving in Lagos, Adaeze felt momentum, like she was finally becoming someone, like the dream was within reach. And then, one morning, a message arrived that changed the entire direction of her life. The sender's name was Kelvin Adeyemi. His opening message was four simple words: I like your ambition. Kelvin Adeyemi was 38 years old. He lived in Banana Island, the most exclusive address in all of Nigeria, where houses sit behind tall walls and the cars in the driveways cost more than most people earn in a decade. He drove a matte black Range Rover. He wore his wealth quietly. No flashy jewelry, no loud designer logos, just quality. He was charming, deliberate, the kind of man who never seemed to rush because he had never needed to. He began pursuing Adaeze carefully and patiently. First, long conversations about ambition and potential. Then dinner at restaurants she had only ever seen tagged in other people's Instagram posts. Then the gifts started arriving. An iPhone 15 Pro delivered to her apartment door. A luxury apartment in Lekki Phase 1, fully furnished, completely paid, keys handed over like it was nothing. A brand new Toyota Camry waiting in the parking lot with a bow on the hood. No strings attached, he told her with an easy, relaxed smile. But there is something the elders have always known. There are no free gifts in this world. Everything has a cost. The only question is whether you know the price before you accept it or after. Miriam called her when she found out about the apartment. Adaeze, I'm serious. Do you actually know what this man does? Where is all of this money coming from? Nobody gives out apartment for nothing. Oh. Miriam, stop being negative, Adaeze said. Not everyone who is comfortable is doing something wrong. Some people are just blessed. I'm not going to block my blessing because you are afraid. She quit her job the following week. She moved into Lekki apartment. She started posting luxury content full time and her audience responded immediately. The aesthetic upgraded overnight, better lighting, location and everything. 300,000 followers. Adaeze had become the very thing she used to scroll past at night and envy. She had become the soft life, the dream, the girl other women whispered about. But Kelvin Adeyemi was not simply a generous man who believed in her potential. He was strategic and was patient, and he had been building towards something from the very first message he sent her. Adaeze was about to find out what it was. Kelvin had one rule, stated clearly and calmly right from the beginning. Never question me, never refuse me, and never embarrass me online. At first, it seemed like the reasonable request of a private man, a successful man who had valued his reputation. But so slowly, Adaeze barely noticed it happening. The control began to reveal its true shape. Do not post content for that brand. I don't like them. Delete that comment from your page. You were so friendly at that event. Be more composed. Don't leave this apartment without my driver taking you. Adaeze noticed every single one of these instructions. But she looked around at the apartment, at the cow downstairs, at the life she was living, and swallowed her discomfort and stayed quiet. She told herself, this is just how successful people operate. This is just discipline. This is what it costs to have nice things. Then came the evening that changed everything. Kelvin invited her to his penthouse for dinner. The Lagos lagoon stretched out below them like liquid gold. City lights scattered across the water. On the surface, it was a beautiful night. Kelvin placed his phone face up on the table and slid it across to Adaeze. There is an investment opportunity I want you to promote to your followers, he said, his voice calm and businesslike. Your audience trusts you. That trust has real financial value, and I want to use it. The company was called Future Rights Global. High returns, short time frames, crypto-based, guaranteed profit, the kind of language that sounds impressive until you understand that in real investing, nothing is ever guaranteed. Adaeze looked at the website on his phone. Something inside her felt unsettled. She couldn't name it exactly, just a quiet, persistent discomfort. A small voice somewhere beneath all the luxury saying, ask more questions. What if it's not legitimate? She asked, keeping her voice careful and even. Kelvin's easy smile did not disappear immediately. It faded slowly, like a light has been dimmed. He looked at her for a long and measured silence. Then he said, do you enjoy this apartment, Adaeze? She looked at her hands. The next morning, she picked up her phone, opened Instagram, positioned herself in front of the ring light, and smiled at the camera. Hey guys, I've been quietly investing with Futurize Global for the past 3 weeks, and honestly, the returns are unbelievable. I've already made a 200% profit. I personally checked this out before putting my own money in. This is the real deal. The link is on my bio. Don't sleep on it. She smiled through the whole video. Her followers believed every word. They believed her because they watched her for months. They had seen her journey. They had trusted her face, her voice, and her story. Thousands of people clicked the link and invested. Regular people, working people, students, parents, people who had saved quietly for months and saw Adaeze's face and thought, if she says it's safe, it must be safe. Millions of naira flowed into Future Rise Global. 3 weeks later, it was gone. The website disappeared overnight. The office in Ikeja that looked so professional on their website, empty, cleared out in a single night. Every phone number disconnected, and Kelvin Adeyemi had vanished completely. His mansion in Banana Island, rented under a false name from a landlord who had never met him in person. His company, a carefully constructed fiction. He had never been who Adaeze thought he was, and she had helped him steal from the people who trusted her most. What came next was fast and merciless. Adaeze's comment section did not just turn negative, it turned violent. You scammed us. I invested my school fees because of you. I can't register for examinations. That was my mother's surgery money. She needed that for operation. I trusted you. How could you do this? The comments did not stop. They multiplied by the hours. Hundreds became thousands. Lagos news blog picked up the story before she had even processed what was happening. Influencer Adaeze Okonkwo linked to 200 million naira investment scam. Her full name, her face, her followers, her voice from that smiling video was all attached to a fraud that had taken real money from real people who could not afford to lose it. Police from Alagbon Close in Ikoyi reached out for questioning. Every brand she had worked with dropped within 24 hours. No calls, no explanation, just silence everywhere. In 1 week, her following fell from 300,000 to 40,000, and the ones who remained were not fans, they were witnesses watching to see what happened next. Miriam called. Adaeze almost didn't pick. When she finally answered, there was a long, heavy silence between them. Then Miriam said quietly, with no anger and no satisfaction, you should have listened. Adaeze sat alone in Lekki apartment, the same apartment that had once felt like victory, like arrival, like becoming someone. Now it felt like a cage she had built for herself. She called Kelvin's number over and over, unreachable every time. She drove to Banana Island and knocked on the door of his house, but a woman she had never seen answered. A new tenant who moved in 2 weeks ago had never heard the name Kelvin Adeyemi. Adaeze sat in her car outside the house in Banana Island and felt the full crushing weight of reality settle onto her shoulder. She had not just been deceived, she had been used, turned into an instrument of theft, pointed directly at people who believed in her most. She had not asked enough questions, she had not listened to the warnings. She had chosen the apartment over her instinct, the lifestyle over our integrity, the comfort over the truth, and there was no version of this where she was simply a victim. She knew that now, weeks after the collapse, on an ordinary night, Adaeze picked up her phone and went live on Instagram. No preparation, no script, no ring light, no makeup, and no filters. Just a phone camera pointed at a face she barely recognized anymore. In a dark room felt nothing like home. When our remaining followers joined the live, some came hoping for drama, some came for answers, some came simply because they were curious of what she would say. What they got was something none of them expected: honesty. I was greedy, she said, with her voice barely above a whisper. I wanted a soft life so badly that I stopped asking the questions I knew I should be asking. I ignored every warning. I promoted something I did not fully understand because I was terrified of losing what I had. And because of that, because of my fear and my greed, real people lost their real money. People who trusted me, people who believed me. She did not make excuses. She did not blame Kelvin, not because he was innocent, but because she understood that the choice had been ours. She just sat in the truth and said it out loud. But truth, however bravely spoken, cannot reverse what has already been done. The EFCC investigation continued. Court dates were filled in the Federal High Court in Lagos. In Nsukka, her father stopped responding when neighbors asked about his daughter. He had no words. Her mother quietly closed her fabric store at Ogbete Market for 2 weeks, too weighed down by the questions she could not answer. The shame did not stay in Lagos. It traveled home before Adaeze did. 6 months after Future Rise global collapse, Adaeze packed what remained of her life into bags and returned back to Nsukka. No luxury apartment, no cars, no ring light. She found a quiet position teaching a small private school far from cameras and followers and everything Lagos had once promised her. One afternoon, a young student looked up at her with genuine curiosity and asked, "Miss Adaeze, why did you stop posting online? I used to watch all your videos." Adaeze was quiet for a long moment. Then she answered, "Because I once chose grade over wisdom, and when I did, wisdom left." Not every lifestyle is success. Not every generous stranger is genuine. Not every shortcut is an opportunity. Some of them are simply someone else's exit plan, and you are the door they use to leave. The most dangerous trap is not the one that looks like a trap. It is the one that looks exactly like your dream, furnished, glowing, and waiting for you to walk through without asking a single question. Ask the question, listen to the warnings, and remember, wisdom is not the voice that tells you to stay small. Wisdom is the voice that keeps you safe while you grow. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more stories, comment your thoughts, and share with someone who needs to hear this. I'll see you when the next story calls.